Okay, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Happy Friday, everyone. We're going to get started here soon, just letting folks into the webinar. And Arlen, if you can keep an eye on that when we get started. You will not be able to use the chat function on this meeting, just a little bit of housekeeping. However, there is a Q&A that you can enter in to enter your questions. And it looks like a little chat bubble with a question mark in it. So again, you will not be able to use the chat function, but you will be able to use the Q&A. So if you have questions, you can enter those there. And we are going to get started here shortly. Thanks for being with us and welcome. Happy Friday. If you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A. We will be doing that via written, and if we have questions, we'll allow folks to unmute. We're going to go through the grant and the eligibility and some of the common questions we've been getting, and we will hold on answering questions in the Q&A or raised hands until the end of the overview. So please sit tight and hang with us. Again, the Q&A function will be the main way that we allow questions to be answered during this overview. And again, that looks like a chat bubble with a little question mark up in the corner. Thanks for being with us, everyone. All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Shawnee Harvey. I am the Creative Industries Division Director for the New Mexico Economic Development Department. And I'm joined this morning by Mr. Arlen Nelson, who is our Creative Industries Coordinator. And you are joining us for our grant overview webinar for business development and expansion for creative industries businesses. We're going to go over a few things today, but we're going to get started with looking and going through the application. And we have just implemented Submittable as the platform for all of our grants moving forward for the division. So you can find all creative division grant opportunities and applications when they open. All applications will be going through Submittable, and that website is going to be creativeindustriesdivision.submittable.com. It's also available from our grants page. So if you make your way to our grants page, which can be found from edd.newmexico.gov/creative, from there you'll have a highlight box in the upper corner regarding our grants, and you can learn more and apply from this page, which will take you here, and you can see this fancy button at the top that says apply for a Creative Industries Division grant. That is where you will find the application portal on Submittable, and it'll take you right to that page. All of our grant information and eligibility kind of rough overview is available on this page. So information about the Business Development and Expansion Grant is available. The grant has been open since Monday, December 1st, and it will close promptly at 6 p.m. Mountain Time on December 26th. So 6 p.m. Mountain Time, not 1 second after, not 1 minute later. Make sure you get your applications in. We know that this is right around the holiday season. However, with the amount of different grant programs that we have, this is the way that the chips fell this fiscal year. So we understand that, December 25 and 26, there may not be a lot of activity going on. So if you can, get your applications in early before that 6 p.m. on December 26th. One thing I want to address right now is we will run 2 cycles of this program. This is cycle 1. Cycle 2 will open February 2nd, 2026, and will close on February 27th, 2026 at that same 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Businesses will only be able to apply for 1 cycle of this program. So it will either be the December cycle or the February cycle, but you will not be able to apply for both. So please choose wisely in terms of your timing and capacity as a business owner to be able to apply for this application. You will only be able to apply for 1, and that is just to ensure fairness, and we won't be reviewing duplicate applications. So if you end up starting an application for this cycle and you do not submit it or you do not complete it, please, we'll work with you all on letting us know through the Submittable portal. There is ways to contact us through the Submittable portal regarding your grant application, but you will only be able to officially apply for 1 of these cycles. So if you hit apply for a Creative Industries Division grant, you will be navigated to this page, which is our Submittable portal. And you can see the guidelines for this grant right here at the beginning. So our Creative Industries Business and Development grant is focused on for-profit businesses, for-profit, not nonprofit businesses, not local government. This particular program is focused on for-profit businesses only that have been in business for 3 years and registered in the state for at least 3 years minimum. And this is about creative businesses that are looking to grow, expand, or develop their operations. So their ability to take on more clientele, perform more services, increase the amount of sales that they're doing. This is a grant made to help businesses grow and develop and serve more clients within the state of New Mexico. So we are looking to support creative industry businesses and organizations that support creative industry companies and workers. And this grant is based a lot on showing tangible economic outputs and growth for these small businesses. These grants will be for up to $25,000, and they are for specifically existing creative businesses and organizations. The amount of awards we are going to be awarding in this cycle is 10. So that means 10 businesses are going to be awarded with this funding. It is subject to change, but our projections right now are that we will award 10 businesses per cycle for up to $25,000 each. And 50% of all final awarded submissions will be to the highest scoring projects in rural or underserved communities. And that is based on the statute that created the division. So we're going to get a little bit more into the requirements, but again, this grant is focused on creative industries companies that are for profit and have been in business in operations and registered in the state for a minimum of 3 years. And that is the business that you are applying for. So we've had a few other questions around, the LLC was recently changed or the business was recently registered, change ownership, etc. We will be going based off of when the organization that is the applicant was registered and when it started operations. So if you are not in that 3-year minimum window period, you will not be eligible for this grant program.
All right, so I'm gonna go over that information again. Again, I'm gonna introduce myself. My name is Arlen Nelson. I'm the Creative Industries Division Coordinator, and the requirements for this grant application for the eligibility and be able to pass is must be a for-profit organization, demonstrate at least 3 years of operation within a creative industry field. You must demonstrate and operate and serve communities within the state of New Mexico. So this is not for businesses that work or operate outside of the state of New Mexico. This is for businesses within New Mexico. You must be within one or more of our creative industry clusters. So when you get into the applications, you'll be able to see our creative industry cluster breakdown, which we do still have right underneath there, where we show the performing arts, the visual arts, entertainment, media, applied arts and design, promotion, marketing, graphics, and industrial design, technology, digital media, and crafts and arts and professions. You can select multiple of those by checking the box if you do happen to kind of fit into multiple areas, right? Because we do understand overlap, especially within the creative industries. But I do want to harp on the fact that it is at least 3 years of business. So if you are right underneath, just shy of 3 years, you would not be eligible for this one. All right. So it may be better to wait if that's the next couple of months you'll hit your 3-year mark to apply for the second cycle where that would actually make you more qualified. And now going into our funding availability and the proper uses.
Yes. So this grant, and because the creative industries are so wide, these are programs that we are kind of learning and developing and managing as we go. So when we're thinking about development and expansion, the specific uses for this grant are going to be for inventory for a small business. So if you think about a metal worker or a woodworker that may be able to buy additional materials to expand the number of products that they're in goods that they're able to sell, that's what we mean by inventory. Equipment purchases, marketing, promotion, and digital presence, increasing your digital presence, increasing your marketing, increasing your promotion. Being able to market and grow market your business is key to being able to grow it. So that is an allowable use for this grant. Small infrastructure improvements for your business. These are going to be infrastructure improvements if you need to make changes to the building, to the placement that you're in order to allow for more flow, for more customers, etc. And they must be able to be completed within 12 months. These grant cycles are going to be 12 months from when funding is received. So from the day you receive your check, from the day you receive your ACH deposit, you will have 12 months to complete your project. Any infrastructure improvements that you propose in your project must be completed within that 12-month period. So it is smaller infrastructure improvements. The next allowable use is going to be technology and software improvements for the business. And then we also have a line item that allows for existing program expansion. So what that means is if we have a business that has been doing programming in their business already, uh, they can use that funding to apply for the potential expansion of that program. It cannot be new programming that has never been done before. It cannot be an idea that the business has about a potential program. It has to be programming that is already being done and already being ran on a regular day-to-day operations for the business or on a regular basis. It cannot be something that has not been done before. It has to be existing programming, and it also has to be programming that has a workforce or economic support focus. That is a very specific piece. So that looks like apprentice training, train the trainer, folks that are looking at, getting some sort of professional development service, et cetera. It's not very common to see that in a for-profit creative business, but this line item is specific. It has to be not new programming, and it must engage a workforce or economic support focus in that programming. So it has to be providing some sort of professional development opportunity for these creative professionals that are providing the programming and or where the programming is being marketed to. So again, if you're curious about what a workforce or economic support focus looks like, I would encourage you to just do a little bit of research, and there is a lot out there. The next allowable use is going to be building capacity for measuring your impact, engagement, evaluation, and economic contributions. As creative business owners, as artists, as creatives, it's very common that we want to get back to doing the thing that gives us joy, gives us passion, makes us excited to be engaged in the craft that we're pursuing. And it's sometimes not the most fun to be dealing with taxes, GRT, income statements, tracking how many clients and folks that we're serving, understanding our customers, being able to really have a just-in-time process, all these different nitty-gritty things that come with being a business owner around our measuring and capacity. Can be more difficult for creative business owners. So there is a specific line item here for that development and expansion for your business to address things like building capacity for measuring your impact, engagement, evaluation, and economic contributions. And then the last one is applicable taxes, and that is just noting to the fact that the state, any grants made to for-profit entities with the state will be responsible for taxes on that money received. So we are putting a explicit specific line item in there so that you can calculate what those taxes are going to be if you were to receive that full amount of funding that you request. So you can use this grant to also make sure that you're not going to have an extra tax burden at the end of it. The non-allowable use of this funding is going to be the hiring of full-time personnel. A $25,000 grant, including taxes, is not enough to support a full-time staff member. So again, full-time personnel is a non-allowable use for this grant. And now we're going to kind of talk a little bit more about the creative industry clusters that are under the creative industries division given to us by statute. So these are our legal parameters, and we are not able to go outside of them.
Yep. So I went over them, kind of talked over them, and I don't want to repeat too much in depth, but I did see a question that talked about something along the lines of graphic design, and I think in this area you'll be able to see where graphics and industrial design fall in. That's where knowing that each one of our clusters has a lot of industries within each cluster, in all honesty. So one of the things that we always refer to is our North American identification codes, which is in our creative industry study, our 2024 study, where you'll see close to about 111, I believe that's the most accurate number, for showing each and every code that's associated with our six industry clusters. So if your code falls into that, if you have your code within there, you should be able to find yourself, you should be able to still see your eligibility to apply, right? So that's one thing I want to make sure that everybody actually goes to and look at, is seeing how do you fit within our identification codes that are eligible within our funding. If you do have a question, or again, you may have that overlap and you do see it in there in the application, you will see our again, over 111 codes that you'll be able to find what's associated with your business. Okay.
Absolutely. And thanks, Arlen. We will ask you to identify which creative industry cluster you are in. So, real quick, because we know that creatives and business do not fall easily and evenly into these categories, when it comes to labeling and putting yourself in a box, we understand that that's not a natural space to do that. So when we ask you to let us know, you're actually going to have check boxes, and we ask you to select up to 3 max. So we know that folks might fall into more than one area. So we've allowed for that flexibility for you to be able to identify yourself in more than one area if that's where you see yourself falling. So the reporting requirements are going to be the biggest piece of the grant, and is, the way that we show growth over time, that we show why this is impactful to the legislature and how we're able to then, receive additional funding, request additional funding so we can continue these programs. So the reporting requirements and the data that we're tracking is going to be a huge piece of this. So just know, if you are a business that is selected for this program, the reporting and the data is going to be a really big piece of what we want to see and what we're going to be asking from you. So you will be asked, if you are selected and awarded, you're going to be asked to participate in a 6-month progress check-in. We're going to want to know how your project's going, how much funding you've expended to date, if you've been able to execute on the things that are in your project, form any new partnerships, check in and see how things are going, if there's any concerns, etc. And then you're also going to be required to submit a final report at the end of that 12-month period. And that is going to include a lot of economic data that we can use to show the growth that's possible with this funding and when we invest intentionally into the creative industries. So we're going to be asking for quantitative and qualitative metrics for your business development and expansion growth project or proposal. We're going to be asking about the number of businesses or clients that you were able to serve, revenue impact, the GRT that you had to report to the state, the number of jobs that you may have created, and any partnerships formed. And then we're also going to be looking to you for information on success stories, testimonials, just the opportunity that the grant was able to open for you. So we're going to have a mix of those questions for you. And then we're also going to request that after that 12 months, we're able to issue you a post-grantee survey to ask you for additional economic data about your business. And this is not to, put specific names of businesses and show that growth. What we'll be doing on our end is actually like aggregating that data with our economist team to show, on average, we've funded 10 to 20 businesses over the last 2 years, and this is the growth that they have seen on average over time. This is like the average GRT. So these are not going to be personal numbers being reported in a public way. They're going to be done in a way that averages that out and removes any like specific data about companies. What we're looking at is broad economic growth and changes over time. And that's how we advocate for funding. And that is how we're able to show that this really works and is, worth investing in now and into the future. And then again, I did mention this of organizations are going to be responsible for GRT, gross receipts tax, and other applicable taxes received from this grant. So as a for-profit, take that into account when you're building your budget, and it is an allowable use of funding. And then we'll also ask you to include that in your budget template, which we'll get to a little bit later. Arlen, you want to hit the funding piece?
Yeah. Sorry. So, oh no, you're all right. You already said about the GRT information, knowing that you would have to account for your gross receipts tax with the money that you are received, knowing that it's also allowable use. I would want to also harp on the fact that a lot of the documentation that we're asking for in this application, please make sure that you're putting the right formats and putting it in there because our processes for being able to get money out can be long. So when we're asking for W-9s, when we're asking for other documents to be received, please pay attention to uploading them. And I would also say like it is opportunity to be able to reopen the application, get in the application, and actually start working on it now. Please start on the application before December 26th. I know a lot of people try to prepare and sometimes it just kind of submit last minute. We have the ability to be able to troubleshoot issues if they were to happen earlier on. If something were to be uploaded wrong or any other document that's missing, you'll be able to message me through Submittable and we'll be able to help and try to fix the issue that is happening with your application. But I cannot do that at 6 p.m. on Friday on December 26th because I will not be able to go in and reopen. And at when 6 p.m. happens, we are not opening applications again. We will just be going into review mode and going from there. So I do want to really harp on that 6 p.m. on Friday, that application will be due and please start earlier on. And scroll down a little more for me. I'm sorry.
Sorry, did you mean over here? Sorry, we're going all the way back up.
And then now I guess we can go ahead and start touching on the scoring rubric. Scroll down just a little bit more.
Well, I think, Arlen, let's do the eligibility and the organization identifier because those are going to be before you get to the actual application, you are going to be met with an eligibility screening form. So when you're on the submittable portal right here, you've read through the grant guidelines, etc. You're going to hit apply now. And hopefully since I'm logged in, it won't look a little crazy. So the first thing it's going to ask you to do is say, let's find your organization.
Yes. Thank you.
And this is only going to give you back a search result if you have already submitted a grant through Submittable for another program. And if you're not coming up when you look through this, etc., go ahead and just click skip and continue to the application. If you're not coming up in the search result, it does not mean anything. It just means that you don't have data in Submittable system, so you'll be able to skip and continue to the application.
Yes, that's something that's very important because we have gotten a question about that before. And now being able to see the eligibility form, you can see that we start off by asking what type of business that you have, whether that's a for-profit or nonprofit, knowing that this grant is for for-profit businesses. We do ask you about when your business was registered with the state of New Mexico, and when your business have actually started to begin operations, knowing that sometimes that can be two separate things, right? You can register and then not begin operations. You can start paperwork and not really go all the way through. So we want to know when you actually have began operations, understanding where have you heard about this opportunity, with the fact that this information has gotten out more, and we've been working with other groups such as Chamber of Commerce, Main Streets, and other entities that support creative businesses that are also helping us to get the word out.
Yes, and I just want to address because I see in the Q&A there was a question around the 3 years. This is actually going to be going based off of the grant application itself. So because the application opened on December 1, we're looking at December 1, 2022 or earlier. That would be that 3-year mark. So it's not the December 26th deadline. It's actually the opening. So December 1 is what we're looking at. So you need to have been in business and in operations for a minimum of 3 years within the state of New Mexico, December 1, 2022 or earlier, etc. And then we'll ask you a few other questions about, how you found out about the opportunity, if you visited our website, and then if you've ever received funding from the Creative Industries Division in general or another program within the Economic Development Department. And then there is another question here. It says, are you a current grantee of the 2025 Creative Industries Business and Development Expansion Grant? So we did this grant announced awardees in April of 2025, this year. So if you are a grantee of that program and you are still within your grant period of 12 months, meaning that you don't owe us a final report till June 30th, 2026, that means that you will not be eligible for this program because you are still in a grant period cycle that has not ended. So you will not be able to apply for a secondary grant while you are still in the grant cycle. And again, there's been a lot of questions about whether or not we work with film companies and film businesses, production studios, etc. Per statute, Creative Industries Division does not include film, and that is defined as a filming activity that is supported by the New Mexico Film Office. So if your business has claimed, received, or reporting a film production tax credit in the most recent tax year to New Mexico Taxation and Revenue or the New Mexico Film Office, we want to know that. If you are not claiming, you're going to hit no. And if you are claiming, receiving, or reporting the film production tax credit in the most recent tax year, which is going to be 2024, we just reported taxes for 2024. Yeah. For 2024, if you used or claimed that credit, we need to know. So please answer that question because we also will be doing back-end checks anyway with New Mexico Tax Rev as well as the Film Office. So please answer that question honestly. And again, film companies who are mainly in the business of doing filming activities are typically not eligible for these programs because there are several other incentives and tax incentives and programs available to film businesses. And this is just how the legislation was drawn, and we are tied to it. So those are the eligibility questions that you're going to have to go through before you make it to the actual application. If you are eligible for the application, it will let you continue forward and you will see all the same information again because we really, really want to make sure that you read it. And then you'll scroll down and you'll be able to see the scoring rubric, which is basically the beginning of the application. So again, this grant is going to be out of a total of 200 possible points, and there is a small point bump for businesses that are located in a rural area, rural meaning outside the city of Albuquerque and outside the city of Santa Fe, and a small bump for businesses with fewer than 10 employees. That is because our legislation has a specific call out to support creative industries, businesses, and entrepreneurs who have fewer than 10 employees. So those are both directly tied to our statutory requirements. So that is why you will see that score there. And then again, your business expansion and growth section is worth 75 points. Your funding request and budget is worth 40 points. And your data collection and impact evaluation section will be worth 75 points out of a total of 200. And you can think of the weight as percentages. So you have 37.5%, 20%, 37.5%, and a 2.5% bump for each of those rural or fewer than 10 employees pieces for a total score of 100%. First thing you're going to do is we're going to ask you for a W-9. The state loves to know who you are on paper. So we are going to ask you for a W-9. I've linked the state of New Mexico W-9 here. So if you haven't submitted a 2025 W-9, you will need to submit us a W-9 that's dated for the current year. And I've included a lot of different instructions here about what boxes need to be checked if you are a single member LLC, as well as a requirement around digital signatures are not allowed. They must be ink. So please, please, please print out that W-9. You can fill it out typing here, but when you get to that signature portion down here, you're going to need to print it out. You're going to need to sign it, and then you can take a picture, take a scan, etc., and upload it back for us. This is a very time-consuming process. We have to send these in if you are selected for a grant to get entered into the vendor or share system. And it can take a very long amount of time because DFA is constantly processing those requests for all 40-something state agencies. So please take the time and attention to detail to fill this out because it will hold up your ability to receive your grant funding if it's not done correctly, and we are not allowed to make those changes for you. And then we get to the fun stuff.
All right. So this is a very important part that can lead to a lot of confusion sometimes. So make sure that whenever you're putting in your contact information, you're putting your organizational name, and we're now asking for your EIN number. We would like to have a website so we actually know what you do, being able to do more research on some of the work that you do, some connections to social media. So whenever it's helping us to be able to get a lot of our information needed in the beginning out the way. Because if we are, let's say you are awarded, we be able to know what social medias that we can tag and connect to whenever we're doing our announcements, but also helping with promotions. Um, the business mailing address is something that we are really asking for specifically. So make sure that you're giving us all the information of where your business is registered within the state. Do not give us your personal mailing address, please. We do need the business address, and give us a direct contact to the person that's actually applying to this grant. We have had issues before where the direct email did not actually go to the right person, and then it can have some confusion. So please put the direct contact to the actual applicant and who will be the point of contact for the grant application.
Yep. And then we're going to ask you for your city and county. We've got all 33 amazing New Mexico counties there listed for you so you can pick where you're located. Apparently, Catron didn't want to take my pick. And then we're going to ask you which region you're located in. And these are the Economic Development Department's designated regions, 1 through 6. You see where you are, just let us know. 1 through 6, where are you located? And then we want to know, are you in a rural or urban space? If you are in the city of Albuquerque, you are considered urban, and if you are in the city of Santa Fe, you are considered urban. For the purposes of this program, anything outside of Albuquerque and city of Santa Fe is considered rural. And again, we will still compare that to the business information that you provide above. And then we will ask you a little bit more about your for-profit entity type. And then you have demographic and personal identity information of the business owner, and that is completely optional. It just helps us know who we are reaching and who we are serving.
Yes, it is important if you want to help us with more data that goes into understanding who is working in what in the creative economy within the state of New Mexico. And this is our way of being able to capture any demographic data around race or any other identities. But it is completely optional. Next, it also, I want to state that reading, and now it looks a little different, but when you click on it, Shawnee, what does your business do? Do it show the word limit?
It should, and I'm assuming it's not showing it now just because this is the form edit view.
Yes. Well, on the actual form, and it does on my end too. I do see it is a 75 word limit. So throughout the form, in some of these open text boxes, you'll be able to see how many words you'll be able to put in there. Please do not overshare in these boxes. Be able to be as straight to the point as possible while giving the details that's being asked. So in what your business do, products or services, that's where we're asking you what are some of your everyday tasks, duties, products, your day-to-day work that you do. And that helps us to be able to identify how you fall in within that creative clusters that you selected, and then know what you do overall to kind of be able to compare your GRT later on when we asking about metrics and data and funding. As stated earlier, We want to know when was your business registered within the state. You have a calendar drop down. You'll be able to go to the exact date and be able to give us that, which makes it a lot easier without having to just type it in. We are asking if you have um, how many employees you have within your business, both including full-time and part-time employees. 1 to 10, well, the basic breakdown of 10 to 50 and then 50 to 500, knowing that this could be open to corporations if you have more than one business. But remember the differences in those bumps. What number of full-time employees are current? What number of part-time employees are current? And then this is where you'll be able to get the drop-down list of the 111 North American identification codes to be able to see where you see fit. I know earlier said that it, it may not see if it's not listed. You can still add it, but just know we are still looking for people who are within those codes and within eligibility. Okay. This is the creative clusters. This is where you're able to select multiple clusters if that's where you fall into, um, or your individual cluster area. And that's pretty much where we're getting all of your background information of where you at, almost kind of like the a more detailed version of the eligibility form, but right before you get into section 1. And section 1 is another, I'm glad we got it right there. The word limit is something that is very important that I would like people to pay attention to again, because we are asking for something that could be pretty elaborate when we're asking about your plans for development and expansion, the use of funds. But we are, in this question, we're asking, how are you using the funds specifically to expand your business, right? How are you using it to develop the programs that already exist? So this is not going into new programming or anything like that.
Yes.
Also, we're giving you 500 words counts on each one of these. So whenever we're asking about measurable outcomes, how do you anticipate the project if awarded? We're giving you enough to be able to tell us a little bit about what you're anticipating with the project, and then also give us an honest answer of if the project will be able to move forward with the funding or without the funding. Um, and then how will the development and expansion strengthen your business? We're giving you another 500 words to be able to explain that. So stay within the word limit, but also please give us as much detail as possible.
Section 2 is going to cover your funding and budget request. We want to know how much funding you're requesting and which of the eligible expenses you are going to be tying your spending to. And then we are going to ask you to put that in an Excel sheet that we have provided for you. Please do not build your own budget, your own Excel sheet, etc. Go ahead and use the template that we have. If you do not use the template that we provided, that is going to cause some issues when we're going to score. So again, how do I want to do this? I want it to make sure that you all can see it properly. Oh, and that won't work because it's now in a new window. Let me do it again. Okay. This is going to be what an example of this grant budget template looks like. These are all examples. We're going to ask you to go ahead and put these in. You also have, I believe that I have these set as drop downs, but because it's showing in Google, you can't see that. But when you download it, these are drop down items, and then you can enter in a description of the purchase as well as what type of purchase, the name of the purchase, select a category, provide your amount, and then a description, and it will auto add this up for you. If you go over the 25,000, this box will turn red, so you'll know that you need to do some recalculations. You have the same ask for matching and in-kind contributions form. This form is optional. However, it may strengthen your application and can still be counted in that section for your funding and budget of 40 points. And I've also made sure that there is instructions for this. So again, it walks you through how to select the different pieces, what we're really looking for, and then it asks you to save and export each sheet as like a separate PDF. So you'll be asked to, when you save and export from an actual Excel file, it allows you to just pick one sheet and save to PDF. That's what we're looking for. But again, all the instructions are going to be included on that last sheet. And then this is the required form to submit your budget template. And when you come back to the application, it'll allow you to upload it there, and you will only be able to upload it in PDF. So again, the instructions are on the form, and then we've also asked you to name the form relatively specific for this. Your grant budget is required. The in-kind match form is optional, but it may help your application. Section 3 is going to be where we're asking you about data collection and impact evaluation. We're asking you which KPIs your business currently tracks to understand its health and growth, how you will be creating a return on investment with the funding, and how you will measure it, as well as how you're going to evaluate the success of your project on your business operations or growth. These are limited to 250 words, so you do have to be intentional. We had over 100 applications for our last grant and also only 8 to 10 awards available. So we all have to do, and our grant reviewers have to do a lot of reading. So we are encouraging you to be specific and intentional with your wording. And it'll also just it will help you and it will help us. It'll help you get your message across and it'll help us understand what you're asking for. These are the only scored questions in this section. After you complete the Section 3 data collection questions, you will be asked for baseline KPIs for your business. We know that a lot of these numbers we're going to be asking you for can change over time from for a lot of different reasons. And all of the data that's collected in these following questions is only used to evaluate the overall program level economic impact. So I kind of talked about that at the beginning. Like, we're going to be looking at your business's data over time and then looking at kind of average aggregate growth and opportunity that we've created for businesses. It's not going to be reflected in your grant scoring, and it is not used to penalize individual businesses. It's only going to be viewed by staff at EDD, and it's not going to be revealed to grant reviewers when you submit this information. So these following questions are only to help us track that data, and that is super important for us to be able to make sure that the division continues to see growth and see support from the legislature. You're going to be asked for income statements for the previous 2 calendar years. So for example, if you're applying in 2025, we're going to want a full income statement for 2024 and 2023. You can select up to 2 files, and you have a couple of different ways that you can upload this. You can snap a picture or you can provide a PDF, but those are the options. And then we're going to be asking you for your total taxable GRT for the previous year and the, again, second previous calendar year. So because it's 2025, we're going to want to know your total taxable GRT for 2024 and your total taxable GRT for 2023. We're also going to ask you your annual year's previous revenue and the second year. And then we're also going to be asking you your profit margin for the previous year and the number of clients or customers served in the 2 previous years. I know for a lot of businesses, this might look like the number of contracts that you provided, the number of projects that you were on, etc. That's what we're asking when we're asking for your number of clients or customers served. You know, how many projects, how many programs, etc. And then we're going to ask you your current number of contracted employees for your business as well. Then we're going to be asking you, sorry, Arlen, I'm taking it. Then we're going to be asking you for your logo, so that we can advertise if your business has been awarded or, promote when your business has been awarded. And we're going to be asking for any other images that we can use to be shared in press releases and social media.
I would like to just add, we do have a preference, even though you have many options to be able to upload still, because I understand It could be a learning curve, but we do prefer PNG files because that is easier for social media and email, and it's just easier to be able to transfer and put on other documents compared to the JPEG. But I will take whatever that you have within the acceptable files list.
And then your last section is going to be a certification and submission. Again, we're going to go over some of the things included that we're going to be asking for in your final report. That there is a 6-month check-in and a post-survey requirement if you're selected as a grantee of this program. And it goes over the different pieces that we will be asking you to tell us at the end of your report. And by submitting and by checking the box, you're going to agree to participate in that 6-month check-in, provide a final report, and participate in a post survey. And then we're going to ask you to certify that all your information is true and accurate. And then we're going to ask for an e-signature. And on this piece, we know sometimes folks have grant writers or other people on their team that might be helping with this. I should also mention that when you are filling out this application, you are able to invite collaborators to support you on the application, like other folks from your business that you might want to do, you know what, I'm going to include my accountant because they have all the numbers needed for the KPIs. So I'm going to add them in as a collaborator. Then they can access your application and enter that information, but only the person who started the application directly will be able to hit submit. And on this e-signature, we are looking for an authorized representative of the business, the same signature, e-signature of the person who is going to sign that final grant agreement if they are awarded. So that is the person who we are looking for to sign there. And then you've got some notes here at the bottom around, look over it. You can save a draft. You can come back to the draft. We do have that availability with this platform. And then you've got some other pieces around when it closes. And the most amazing thing about this platform is that you will, in fact, receive an email after your application is submitted. It'll say, thank you for your submission. You'll get an email that confirms that the portal has gotten your application. So that is a big deal for us because the last platform that we have been using as the division did not have that capability. That is no longer the case. You will know that we got your application, and we will know as well. Arlen, you want to do a brief overview of the FAQ before we jump into Q&A? Again, so the bread and butter of this application is going to be asking you about what your plans are to develop or expand your business using the requested funding, measurable economic outcomes. And if you have questions on what measurable economic outcomes are, really encourage you to do a little bit of research on your own. As we're going to get into the FAQ, we are unable to answer proposal-specific questions or provide guidance on how to frame or how to answer these questions. This is really on the business owner and the organization to kind of look into what measurable economic outcomes look like for their business. We are not going to know what it looks like for your business. Only you will know. So that's why we are kind of putting the onus back on you with some of those questions. Budget funding and request. What are you doing with the money? How much do you want, and what are you going to use it for? And how are you going to track it? What does your business currently do to track it? And how are you going to evaluate success, and what are you going to do to find a return on investment? It's really only 3 sections, and then a lot of it is asking for a lot of data so that we can start to paint a picture of your business over time to help us. But that's a full application. That's it.
Yeah.
So if you are eligible and you're still, not sure, etc., we encourage you to go ahead and apply.
Yeah. And I think, we can go over a little bit of the FAQ too. So I did put the FAQ about 49 minutes ago into the Q&A, so everybody be able to click on it and download it and have access. It's also on our grants page as well. So if you have any questions, I always would like to refer to the FAQ before if we're not in the grant process before reaching out, because a lot of our question are a lot of we try to answer a lot of questions that we frequently get in this FAQ. So this goes into just basic qualifications for most of our business and or not business, sorry, most of our creative industries division grants, right? So if you ever have the question of does my business qualify as a creative industry? As you can see, we already show that what the statute identifies. We already went over the performing arts, visual arts and entertainment, applied arts and design. And that goes into our 6 industry clusters. Uh, Industry clusters does not mean a business or organization or person engaged in creative enterprise involved filming and knowing what we already expressed earlier through the statute, what filming activities is, which is filming activity supported by the New Mexico Film Division Department and the New Mexico Film Office. And then we also provide another link to the clusters, so you'll be able to see specifically all of the North American identification codes. And then we also add the SOC codes, which is more of our international coding system. Um, when you ask the question of who can apply to the creative industry grants are awarded to legal entities, not individuals. So we do not fund sole proprietorships. We did have a question earlier where somebody asked if they applied with a for-profit business to be able to funnel the money through the for-profit business to the sole proprietor. Is that allowed? That is not allowed because we do not support sole proprietorships. We do support other legal entities such as single member LLC to partnerships, LLCs, and corporations, right? And then state entities or legal entities such as state, counties, municipalities, other political subdivisions of the state, Indian nation, tribes, and pueblos, for-profit and nonprofit organizations. Individual grants may vary uh, based on the applicant pool, but they are still restricted to their broader group per statutory requirements.
Yeah. So what we encourage folks to do is there's going to be kind of a lot of time that you'll probably have to spend reading through our FAQ
Mm-hmm.
and doing some research on your own before completing the application. Most of the questions that we get are covered in this FAQ when we get broad inquiries. And again, like we are constantly fielding requests from all 2 million residents of New Mexico who reach out with questions. And it's only Arlen and I who are running the division and who are staffed in the division at this time. So it will sometimes take us a little bit of time. That's why we've done our best to put these documents together that are answering some of the frequently asked stuff. You can learn about how do we determine who receives funding? Are there taxes and fees associated? What kind of projects that we fund? This piece is directly out of the statute again. So there's ways to kind of look at the study in our FAQ to understand the kinds of projects that we are looking for. How can you ask questions or get help about the program? We will only help you with technical specifications and going through the Q&A for folks that attended this webinar today. And we don't do individual support on how can I frame my application? How can I frame my proposal? I'm thinking of doing XYZ. Is this an allowable use? We've stated what the allowable uses are in the grant application. And if you are still thinking that there, is gray area or you might qualify or, maybe you're still not sure, just apply. Go ahead and apply if you have made it to the application itself and it has deemed that you are eligible. Go ahead and apply for the cycle that you want to. Again, you can only apply for one cycle of the program. And then we've got some stuff on how long it can take to receive the funding if you are selected, when applications close, and then can you apply for multiple grants through our division. We do not have a problem with you applying for more than one grant for creative industries, so long as it is not the same grant that you're already a recipient of if you have not finished the reporting, and so long as you're not applying for funding for the same project. So the scope and the budget, et cetera, cannot be in conflict with another creative industries grant and program, that does not count the same as if you are getting another economic development department grant, if you are a Main Street, if you're applying for outdoor equity funding, if you are applying for healthy food financing, if you're applying for one of the other EDD programs, this is not, that does not bar you from applying for a creative industries program. So you can still apply for multiple programs throughout the agency. We are just looking to make sure that there's not overlap and that you're not already receiving funding from us for another program that hasn't ended yet. You know, are there any tips for new applicants? Absolutely. Here's A through F listed there on the FAQ. And then do we support new organizations, or does the organization need to be established? At this time, our grant programs are specific to businesses that have, or organizations that have been in operation for 3 years or longer. We have lots of other resources that we send out for folks for startup grants, for creative opportunities through our newsletter, social media, and the Resource Center. So we connect to other opportunities, but our grant programs are for established businesses because we want to help you all grow grow to the extent that you all want to grow, and then also be eligible for other state programs. And this is kind of like a stepping stone or like a ramp to kind of get yourself ready for some of those other programs. It might feel like we are asking a lot, but we are really asking for the bare minimum compared to some other economic development programs and incentives once you get to that stage. So I'm gonna take us back to that main page. And Arlen, I think we can go ahead and move into the Q&A. Yeah. And then the Creative Industries Division study is a very large file. So if you are clicking on this,
And don't go to there.
Yeah, this is wrong
the link.
though. Okay. Yeah, we'll fix it as well. But either way, the file is massive, and it can take quite a long time to load because it's 200 pages. So if it's also giving you issues, just keep that in mind. We'll also fix the link.
In the Q&A, I also added a link to the CID study itself. That is one of the posts that if anybody wants to go ahead and access that quickly, you can do it through the Q&A. I'm trying to see questions that we haven't answered already.
Yeah, I started at the bottom and came up. I think the first one I see that we haven't addressed is one on the second. Yeah, so this grant opportunity for business development and expansion is for for-profit businesses only. We run another program that's the creative support grant that is focused more on nonprofits. We've ran 2 other grant programs this year that were focused on nonprofit, the Arts and Cultural District program, as well as a support grant. So this program in particular is focused on for-profit businesses. There was another question on, can infrastructure improvements go towards housing for traveling artists? Infrastructure is typically something that is an addition to a building that you cannot remove if you were gonna sell the business and take all the stuff and go. Infrastructure is what's left behind. So again, we can't answer questions on specific proposals, but that wouldn't necessarily count under infrastructure if you're talking about covering lodging costs. That's not quite a use of this funding because we're looking at funding to go to the business to help develop and expand its programming and to the business itself.
Yep. I think the other one was that we kind of answered a little bit is looking at the clusters, what area would a business fall under? Or if any qualify, if they're a graphic designer that does sports apparel and uniform design. And I think going back to where there's I think it's applied arts and design is where graphic arts design is, or it could be Actually, there it is. Promotions, marketing, graphics, and industrial design. That's going to be where a graphic designer fits. Whether you're in sports or otherwise, it will be more if you are a graphic designer, that's kind of where that goes. If it's something that's solely with sports, sports is not necessarily in our wheelhouse.
Yeah. The next question I see is around if the code doesn't fall into the available NAICS codes because they do something else, will they be disqualified? We have an option to list a different NAICS code. So if it's not listed, you can put not listed and enter in other, and then you have an opportunity to explain that in your application further.
Yeah, because
And
while
then,
we do have 111 North American identification codes, that does not mean that probably we could have some that is still in the creative industries, but it's just not covered. So it's an opportunity to do more research.
right. And you can, yes, you can save the application and return throughout the process. When you start to go through the application, you'll be asked to make an account with Submittable so that they can track your information and send you updates, send you links. It's not send you updates on the grant specifically, not just random nonsense. So you will be able to save and resume an application. LLCs are eligible for this program. And this question, the next one says, can you apply for more than one project under a funding area? Yes, that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
Next question, can a foreign LLC that's registered with the state of New Mexico be eligible? We are looking for New Mexico-based businesses for this program. So your business does need to be registered, and like your business location and address does need to be within the state of New Mexico, because this program is focused on New Mexico businesses.
Yeah. The operate and serve within New Mexico as well. So
Yeah, and I know the person that asked that question has their hand up, so I'm going to allow Mike for them to be able to elaborate if you had an additional question on that. Amaya.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, my question is just, so I actually do live here now. I just started my business back in 2018. And so I registered it in the state I lived in at the time, which was Oregon. And I still occasionally operate in Oregon, but I live here and I'm based here and my business is based here. Um, so it was just recommended to me by a tax person to not start over and just get a register with the state of New Mexico as a foreign LLC, so I'm registered in both states. Does that make sense? But I'm still have my same like EIN number.
Yeah, so long as the business address, et cetera, is in New Mexico, you should be fine.
mhm.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Let me see. I know we've got some other hands up, and I guess how do I want to do how do we do this, Arlen? Do we continue to go through the questions or do we go ahead and
I think we can go ahead and probably let the other two hands that are raised to go ahead and speak because they might answer some of the questions that we have in here,
okay.
or help us
Yeah,
to answer some of the questions that's already been asked.
So I think it's
Felicia.
Felicia. And I did
Okay.
allow
Hi, sorry. Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I couldn't find the Q&A box or else I would have put it in there. I know you said it earlier that if we were a sole proprietor business prior to the 3 years and then turned into an LLC, would that be acceptable? Or do we have, even though the LLC wasn't established for 3 years?
We
Very
would
nuanced.
I
So
think
like
it,
okay, sorry.
oh no, I'm sorry. I was gonna say it would just depend on when you have registered with the state of New Mexico because
Oh, okay.
So if your LLC has recently been registered and it's less than 3 years, we would go off of the LLC registration.
Okay, okay. So if it was less than 3 years, then we wouldn't qualify for the eligibility, even though the sole proprietor was prior to that.
Did you have the sole proprietor established with the state?
Yes, I had it under my name, but I didn't know it had, the LLC thing. I was like 12 years old. Well, not 12, but yeah, I was started at the farmer's market and then I just put it under my name.
Right, and then didn't make the change to be legally recognized as an LLC until recently.
Correct.
Nuance. You gotta love
That is
nuance.
nuance, yeah.
I think been in operations for 3 years or more, been registered with the state for 3 years or more. If your current status is as an LLC, I would think it's eligible. So
Okay,
I would say go ahead and apply.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
I would just
appreciate it.
add both documents.
Perfect.
Add all the documentation. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And then Patricia, I'm gonna allow your mic as well. Okay, I'm gonna continue looking through some of these questions. Patricia, I did allow your.
Oh, hello. Yeah,
Oh.
I was clicking the wrong mic button. So it's kind of a two-part question. I became an LLC in 2020 here in Santa Fe. And in 2023, which is technically, I think it's like 2.5 years, not 3. My LLC became a project of the New Mexico Foundation, and they are our fiscal sponsor. So we are an arts organization, and I was advised by the New Mexico Lawyers for the Arts to become an LLC early on because I had changed over from a different fiscal sponsor in 2020 and was changing my direction, and this lawyer advised me to become an LLC. So I did that, but I would like to apply through the New Mexico Foundation. Does that sound doable even?
The foundation, because they're considered a 501c3 nonprofit, would not be eligible, so you would have to apply through the LLC.
Ah, okay. And is there a minimum number of people in New Mexico that our businesses need to serve?
No,
No.
just asking for data purposes.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. That was helpful.
Absolutely, thank you. I know Ian had raised a hand a little bit later on. I think we're going to continue with some of the questions in the chat, and we will come back to you. Will the grant be offered again next December and February for 2026 and 2027, or is this a one-time opportunity? The grant funding that we are pushing out between July 1, 2025 and June 30th, 2026 is all coming from a one-time $4 million special appropriation that was passed by the legislature at the last session. So we do not have recurring grant funding built into our budget at this time. We will go into another legislative session in January that is dealing specifically with appropriations. Our agency is not doing another. It's not on our executive recommendation to do another special appropriation for the Creative Industries Division. So we do not know what our grant funding pool will look like come that December 2026, February 2027 time. We will not know until the end of legislative session in February of 2026 whether or not we have additional funding. If we do not get another special appropriation, it's where it gets a little funky. Our operating budget is around $200,000 outside of personnel expenses. Last year we granted out 145,000 of that, which included this program. So we would like to continue this program next year. We do not know what those award amounts will look like at this time. So this is intended as an ongoing year-to-year program, but we are not promised ongoing grant funding. So we don't know what the amounts will look like, or if we will have more or less, etc. So I hope that answers the question. We are kind of at will of the legislature. So if you would like to see more funding, you can, do what you feel is right. But we are in a position where we are not, our budget request for Economic Development Department and Creative Industries Division is flat. So we cannot ask for additional grant funding. But we've gotten over $5 million in requests on the last grant program alone, with only 4 million that we're trying to spread out across 4 programs. So do with that information what you will. We are not allowed to advocate. That doesn't mean that you are not allowed to advocate, but we are a little bit tied.
See one as if I just applied for a Main Street grant that's pending, can I still apply for this grant?
Yes, you can still apply. Business changed LLC ownership in 2025. New LLC is less than a year old. Business has operated for 20 years under the old LLC. New EIN was required with new ownership. Seems like technically this would exclude us. I think technically that is correct, because we are going to be looking at the EIN you use to apply and whether or not that entity has that business history. Arlen?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Only because of what it looks like for a new owner taking over a LLC, it don't always transfer. Everything doesn't always transfer, and I know within the state, that will be, since that is a new EIN, that would be a newly established business.
Yeah. Next question says, are deaf-owned businesses or serving deaf community considered underserved for purposes of the 50% rural allocation? At this time, we are only using the physical geographic location to do that rural bump. So let me go back to the scoring rubric. Rural will receive a 2.5% point bump, and then less than 10 employees will receive that 2.5% point bump. Underserved is a broad term in rule and definition that has not been defined by the department or the division specifically. And because of the legal ramifications tied to some of the underserved topics and areas, we are collecting that data optionally, and we are not using it to determine eligibility or do a point bump at this time. So not for this grant. It would not be considered as it wouldn't be considered for a rural bump unless the business is located in a rural location, then yes. But if you're, for example, School for the Deaf in Santa Fe, which again, I don't even know if they're a for-profit business, so I don't know that they would qualify, but that would still be looked at as within the city of Santa Fe, so it would not qualify for that rural bump. The underserved and how to kind of do those definitions is just something as 2 people in the department, we have not had the capacity to kind of tie that to congressional language, census tracts, opportunity zones. Like there's a lot of really weird parameters and they change often. So physical geography has been the most forward facing one that we can base things off of at this time. So that's what we're looking at for this program.
Also based on the statute, right?
Yeah. And then
I see one that says, do we include ourselves as an employee even if we don't draw pay?
I mean, if you work in and on your business, I would still consider you an employee of your business, even if you're not drawing pay, like you are doing work for your business. So you're an employee. So yes, please count yourself. Business is on the outskirts of Santa Fe, outside of the city boundary. Is that considered urban still? Anything outside the city of Santa Fe will still be considered rural.
Mhm.
So we are going to be, yeah, we'll look at that. Do subcontractors count as part-time employees on the submittable? No, we have one question on full-time, one question on part-time, and a question on contractors. So those are looked at as separate. Your employees are your W-2 folks, your part-times are your 20 hours, et cetera, folks, and then your contractors are, you know, if you have people working on under 1099 and on a subcontract for you, those are considered contractors, and we have a separate question for them. So they're not included as part-time or full-time employees. Okay. This is several questions on this next one. What does a business in good standing mean? That means that you are a business that is registered and you don't have a bunch of back taxes due with New Mexico Tax and Rev or the IRS. If you are having those issues, we will not be able to get you grant funding anyway, because all of our grants have to go through New Mexico Tax and Rev and Department of Finance and Administration. If there's any flags on your account or unpaid stuff, you're not going to be able to get this funding, and our grant funding can't be used to pay back taxes. It can be used to pay the taxes that are going to be incurred by the grant funding, but you can't use it to pay down outstanding debts. Under infrastructure, can you purchase XYZ? That is more of a proposal specific question, so we can't answer questions about the content of proposals. So the next following questions are kind of related to that as well, like the types of costs that they would fall under. Can we hire subcontractors that are not full time? Let me go back up to these allowable uses.
Uses, yeah.
Not like if it's falling under the implementation installation of one of these categories, potentially it's just going to need to be detailed in the application. But technically, like we're not looking at the hiring of personnel for this grant in particular. We know that they can help build capacity if that's under the under a subcontractor, et cetera. It's a possibility, but again, these are going to be compared to, like, you know, every application that comes into the pool is going to be looked at that way. So it kind of needs to be clearly tied to the allowable funding uses that have been defined. And then we're not going to provide examples of what we're looking for answering these questions. That's going to be a responsibility of the business owner to kind of go out and look at return on investment, economic impact, outcomes, et cetera. Those are going to be really tailored for the particular business and type of work they do. So providing examples is not necessarily helpful, and kind of is just providing, it's kind of asking us what we want to see, and we don't want to provide an unfair advantage by providing examples. And then the last piece is, can you expand on tangible economic output and growth of the business as it pertains to the application? Do you want projections and reports? Again, we're not going to provide examples of what we're looking for. This is up to the business to be able to where's the word I'm looking for? This is up to the business to be able to articulate it through the application. You only have 250 words to do so in each of these sections. It does allow for links, but we are not necessarily looking for projections reports. We are wanting you to in words, describe these questions for us. So I hope that that answers the question. Arlen, you have anything to add on that one?
No, I think you said everything with that.
Okay, I have to
The
refresh.
next one I see is, uh, if we select not listed for the North American identification codes, will we not be considered as highly? I think we said that earlier. It's not that you wouldn't be considered as highly. We would just do more research to be able to see how does your code actually fit within our industry clusters. And if it does not fit within our industry clusters, that's something completely different. Then we would be able to know whether you're eligible or not.
Yeah, and again, that
But we
eligibility
do
is
know that we may not capture everything.
right.
I'm sorry.
Not be considered highly. It's not about not being considered as highly, it's about whether or not you were eligible for the program, yes or no, pass, fail. So there's not like a point, there's not a point value associated with the NAICS code. This is just about us being able to define eligibility, because creative industries by statute is very broad. So we are just doing our best.
And the next
Doing our
one I
best to make
saw,
sure
they
we're following.
provided us. Oh, I'm so sorry. I think I'm having a lag on my end.
You're good. I see you answered the question about our NAICS codes for language schools and in sign language instruction included. Again, those are all the SOC codes and NAICS codes of like creative industry businesses are in the study. So we do link the study. We'll make sure that those links are updated, but those are in the appendices. So if you'll, even on our main website, if you go to edd.newmexico.gov/creative, you can find the study there as well. That is right here at the bottom under our publications and data, and you can go to the 2024 study, which is already loaded in this tab, and you can go down to the appendices to double check the SOC codes and NAICS codes here, and we will let you do that on your own time.
Yeah.
Will the February group ask for 2023 and 2024, similar to the December? I was thinking about this when we built the application. No, if you apply for the 2026 program, you're going to be asked for the previous 2 calendar years, 2025 and 2024. So it will shift slightly. But again, those KPIs that we're asking you for baseline, they're not counted in your grant score. It's just for economic data tracking over time purposes. So if you apply in 2026, we'll be asking you for 2025 and 2024. Can we give some examples of KPIs? No. Again, there is baseline KPIs listed in the application that we ask for. And then this is also, KPIs for every business are going to look different depending on what they're doing to measure growth and health over time. And those are going to be specific to your business. So we want to know what that looks like and what you're doing for your business. We're not going to tell you how to answer these questions. Let me see.
Yeah. I think this other one that says are businesses that have had a period of low or no operations for blocks of time over the past 2 to 3 years, not making revenue, still eligible to, and I would think that you're still eligible to apply if you are a creative business owner that is the LLC or otherwise. How you're scored is how you're scored. I will say that. On everything else with your budget and whatever you're able to have with revenue and otherwise.
Yeah, and again, like those revenues that we're asking for aren't going to be built into your scores. We're looking at the contents of the application that are going to be scored. So that's, these section 3 questions, your funding request and budget, and this section 1. what I want to mention is I know for a fact that so many amazing creative businesses go through periods of seasonality and may have a good year, may have a bad year. There was a lot of people buying because they had discretionary income. No one was buying because they didn't want to spend money on super awesome stuff that makes their lives better and they wanted to go spend it on anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like we
Yeah.
understand that that is a reality for creative businesses and that it's not as like we're not looking at it from the perspective of bankers and financiers. However, doing applications like this, answering metrics and providing data like this is helpful for you when you're thinking about that kind of stuff in the future. But we aren't going to be looking necessarily at like, oh, you had a 0 year, because again, that could come
Yeah.
from the way that you're doing your taxes. So like we're not looking at that. We're looking at the content of your proposal and the things that we tied scoring to. So yes, still eligible. Sorry.
Mhm. No, no, I agree with that because right, depending on your business, it could have a season, it could have a year where it was big and then something else changes with the products or otherwise. So
Um, Man, I teach private music programs. Can the grant be used for scholarships? That's very similar to like re-granting funds or paying folks for participation. Arlen, to me, it's coming to me as a no.
yes, that goes off of re-granting, and I would definitely say no. Also, one of the things that the hard part about scholarships is they can also look like stipends, which is also something that we've been against in our grant processes as well too. And also, I wanted to think because I know we done went through a few questions. I still see Ian's hand up. I want to make sure that we get Ian to be able to ask his question so he won't have to worry about, or he or them or they, I'm sorry, wouldn't have to have their hand up the whole time.
Yeah, just allowed mic access for Ian.
Hi, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Shani and Arlen. Thank you for doing this. You may have answered my question. We're a local for-profit LLC. We've been in good standing since our date of incorporation back in 2014. However, we also haven't had an income for the past few years. We've had an online store that hasn't generated income, and in fact, we want to use this grant to continue development of an app that we've been working on to expand our outreach. But we don't have any W-9s because we haven't had an income. So do we qualify? Should we submit W-9s anyway? Like what should we do and do we qualify?
Yes, you should still be qualified. The W-9 is more for us to be able to register folks as a vendor in the state system if they're awarded. So that like the previous question on if there's no income showing, you should be fine and eligible to apply.
Yeah.
And then, man, I'm going back to this question on the music programming. Again, for existing program expansion, if that's where they were theoretically seeing the scholarship fall, is that there must be a workforce or economic support focus in this. It's very hard. You have to tie it to that workforce or economic component, is what I would say. And just based on elementary as opposed to something that might be a little higher where they can be transitioning, you know, into the job of being a performer, it's unlikely that that would be an allowable use of funds. Still. Do you have guidelines for reporting qualitative and quantitative data generally for any grant? David, maybe if I can ask you to unmute and and expand on that question. I guess I don't know what you're asking. We do have at the very bottom of the application, it goes over what we will be asking for in the final report. And I have to like find the little, oh, it's gonna be harder than I want it to be. I have to find David in here and then ask to unmute. Let me see.
I'm looking as well. I don't know if
I don't know if
David
David
is
is
still
still
here.
in the meeting. Okay, I don't see
No.
David still in the meeting. There is kind of some broad stuff. Do you have guidelines for reporting qualitative and quantitative data generally for any grant? I would say that there is a lot of qualitative and quantitative metrics available in the study as well as on the application. We also have reports from previous grantees, included on our website. So there's some samples that folks could take a look at there if they're curious.
Yeah.
Can this be used for the hiring of contract workers to support and expand business operations?
Yes.
Yeah, technically, yes. As long as it's falling into one of those areas, that's an allowable grant use. I know someone had some questions on that earlier. Yes, as long as it's tied to one of those allowable uses directly. And then can you revisit the application? Yes, you absolutely can.
Yes, it saves. And you can also troubleshoot within Submittable if you have any issues.
Let's see, programs travel to multiple public and private schools, but the business is registered out of the home. Is there any issues there? No, there's no issues there. I know that there's a lot of single member LLCs that the business address might be tied to the personal address. That's not an issue. We're just looking for that formal legal entity. However, when we said at the beginning, Arlen said, don't put your personal business address. We want the business registered address. If that happens to
Yes,
be your home personal address,
that's fine.
put that one. Yeah. And then we have, can funding be used to add a building or a shed built in less than 12 months? Infrastructure that is completed in the 12-month period, less than 12-month period is allowed. So long as it can be completed in that 12 months, that's fine. What if we are reorganizing under an LLC EIN from 2019? I'm not sure what that question means, but I think we answered it similarly to another question from Felicia. The business was in operation, like so long as the registration date and the beginning operations date have that 3 years. And the organization of that final legal entity is completed at that time of the December 1, 2025 opening deadline, shouldn't be an issue. This grant is not for nonprofits, it is for profit only. And no, we do not expect the LLC to have a storefront or physical location. We know that there's a lot of creative businesses that do not do that.
Yeah, we also have more programs that actually help to incentivize an online e-commerce presence as well. Not specifically through our division, but in general within the state and within the economic development department. So nobody's going to be penalized for not having a storefront.
Right. And then Rachel, I see your hand up. So I just allowed the mic. And we can kind of hear you. I hear you trying to unmute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is it working?
It's
Yes.
working now.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So I had logged into the application to go through the preliminary questions, and it's saying that unfortunately I'm disqualified, and I'm not quite sure why, except I'm in submittable already, and we have multiple NAICS codes. It didn't have anywhere where you put in the NAICS codes, but I don't know if it had a NAICS code from a previous application. We are an LLC. We've been registered since 2016. We're a for-profit, but we do have multiple NAICS code. So we're both a farm, but we use our farm products for agriculture to make value-added food. So we're also a culinary business. We're a freeze-dried food manufacturer. And so we make freeze-dried tamales and soups and stews and things like that and freeze-dry them and get those out. So we fall under the culinary one as well, culinary arts. And food manufacturing, that sort of thing. It didn't ask us any one of the questions for our NAICS code, but I don't know if that's what disqualified us.
No, it shouldn't have disqualified you. Maybe Rachel, if you'll send us an email, we can chat with you about it specifically, because it would have had to do with when you registered, when you began operations, the type of business, or the film credit information, or if you're a current grantee. So if those, yeah, let us connect with you
Okay.
on that. If you'll send
Sure.
Arlen or and I an email.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Kat, I see you there. I'm just going to address this last one. If I started a business as a sole proprietor over 5 years ago and have been operating it since, and change to a formal LLC this year, we ideally, the LLC would have already been established. Like, making these kinds of changes just to qualify for the grant is not going to work in this case. I know that may have.
Well, we said earlier, I would say as long as they make sure you add your information for your sole proprietorship. I think a lot of people say they have a sole proprietorship and don't register within the state. So when it does come down to, if you transfer your sole proprietorship to an LLC, provide the previous documentation with the sole proprietorship and the new documentation of the LLC. That's what I would say. So then we can really evaluate and be able to see were you fully established or not. Because a lot of people work as a sole proprietor but never be established with the state or city. So I think that would be the big difference in trying to see somebody moving from a sole proprietor to a LLC. We would need to see previous information and documentation of the operation.
Yeah. Thank you, Arlen. And then going to the hands that we've got up, Kat.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First, I wanted to say thank you guys so much for your hard work. I know how much this takes to put together, so I really appreciate it. Second, on the W-9, if we already have one on file, do we need to file another, like a new one? I know it's got to be the ink and everything, but just wanted to clarify.
Just needs to be one that's dated for 2025. So if there's a previous one that you can upload, that's fine. But I think we specified that it needs to be, thought I specified, yeah, it needs to be for the current year. So as long as it's dated for the year, that's fine. And again, if you wanted to, I think that's something else over here. I thought I did. If you have a different W-9, et cetera, or you're already in the system, yeah, we're going to ask you to upload another one, just making sure it's within the current year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Greg, let me allow your mic.
Hi, I don't actually have a question. I have an answer for Rachel. So it rejected me the first time through as well. But when I said I subscribed to the EDD newsletter, it actually let me through. So
all right, we'll fix that.
And I did. I actually went and subscribed, and then I went back and then it let me in. So FYI.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. We're going to fix that. That is not a disqualifier. You don't have to be on our newsletter. Thank you.
Thank
all
you
right.
for that.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's hard to catch everything. We appreciate it. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for your time. Again, we'll make those updates, and we will make those updates, and then we're going to get the recording up on YouTube today. So if you missed something, want to go back, etc., we'll have that up for you all this afternoon. And again, happy holidays, happy Friday. And we look forward to seeing your applications. And again, if this cycle seems like a little too much, just know we have that second cycle coming in February, and just pick the one that's right for you. And we look forward to seeing what you all are planning to do with your businesses. And, if you want to see more funding for the Creative Industries Division, you all are the power, and you all are the people. So do with that information what you will. We appreciate your time.
Disclaimer is, since we got to make those edits, if you did start your application already, you may have to resubmit some of the information, since we're going to be going through and changing it. So if that does happen, just let us know if anything is missing.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you.